a live session for color theory. We've got a nice group in attendance, including Angela, Anna, Elizabeth, Kali, Shalisha, Tyler. Thanks, guys, for attending. It's much better to be here live than to watch recordings, in my opinion, but I'm glad you're here. If you are able to turn on your mic and discuss with us, that's the best. But if you're in a noisy place or you don't want to use your mic, you can chat through the chat window. We'll keep up with what you're saying. Um, Welcome to Color Theory. I'm Peter Olson, the course director. Also in attendance is Matt Penna, another course director. Depending on which section you're in, you'll have one or the other of us. But you can always ask me anything. I'm here to help, so reach out to either of us if you have any questions going forward. Color theory is exciting. It's a lot of fun. This month, you're going to learn a bit about the science of color theory, a bit about cultural and psychological applications of color, get an understanding of different color systems and color management, become proficient of how color works in the marketplace through a real kind of real world assignment, and then image processing and a bit of print technology later on. We're going to use these three programs: Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and InDesign. Is everybody out there just loves InDesign, very comfortable with it? Yes, no, maybe. Well, InDesign is a terrifically powerful program. We're going to use it primarily this month as a presentation template. So you're going to show your work using InDesign. Yeah, Tyler, haven't used it much. Um, the way it works is, you manipulate photos with the Photoshop, create digital push pixels around. Illustrator is for logos, and then you bring it all together in InDesign. InDesign links to the files you place in it, so they're not um, they're not independent. And if you move the files around, the InDesign doesn't know where they are. So you have to keep organized, and it's part of a workflow that all designers must follow. So that's what you'll be learning. You're going to create a lot of assets, put them together into a presentation template, and show off your work. This is what our weeks look like. So this is week one, and every week is going to follow the same sort of rhythm. In other words, Monday we'll always have a live session. Thursday, I will provide a live critique at noon. There's a discussion for each week. And what I want you to do on Thursday is to post your work in whatever state it's in, even if it's not finished, so I can give you some feedback in the discussion. Uh, and that's what the discussions are really for, to give us a chance to review your work before you turn it in for a final grade. On Friday, you'll provide feedback to a peer. You'll get to see the other students' work. If you think of the discussions, really, they're sort of like our virtual classroom. So it's where we all come together, talk about each other's work, and give good feedback before you turn things in for a final grade on Sunday. And every week is going to be, there's going to be something due on Sunday. So I've set this up to provide maximum feedback on your work before you turn in, and also you have the whole week to manage your time. I know people have different work schedules, and sometimes the boss calls up and suddenly schedules you for a shift you weren't expecting. So you need to plan ahead, do as much as you can so that you're prepared for Sunday. You shouldn't be spending uh, all night till 2 in the morning on Sunday getting your work done. There's a lot of work to do. It's a robust course for sure, but if you sort of keep pace with everything, you should be fine for the month. Any questions about the schedule, how we have things set up? None so far. All right. Only those who love color are admitted to its beauty and immanent presence. It affords utility to all, but unveils its deeper mysteries only to its devotees. And this is Johannes Itten, who was a member of the Bauhaus, a Swiss designer, and obviously this is one of his paintings. He loved color. Let's talk about his statement here. He says, color affords utility to all. Can anyone tell me how color affords utility? In other words, how color is useful in a practical sense? Any thoughts? Not sure. It does allow expression, Elizabeth. That's true. How about like traffic lights? Red means stop, green means go. It signifies different things to us. Flavors. You get the red Gatorade. It tastes like, I don't know, tastes like red Gatorade. Um, it differentiates ideas. Yeah, sometimes it can be used to signify something that's a warning, something to alert you, things like that. And it can be used to organize things. You know, you're on the blue team, you're on the red team, right? So that's kind of where most people end up with color. They end up in the utilitarian stage. But as designers, we're going to love color and get the deeper mysteries unveiled to us. That's the goal. One of the things I want you to get out of this class is just to open the door to color, to look at it in a different way as a master, as a designer, that you're in control. And you see how others use it, so you learn from that. But it's going to be a whole new world. You're going to be looking at color differently, more deeply. That's our goal, anyway. We all see color, but how do we describe it? Talking about color is very important. So I want you all to participate in this lecture as I show you some colors and you talk to me about it. If you think about it, color is the most effective tool in a designer's toolbox. Another important tool in design is type, for instance, right? You put type on a page. The viewer has to be able to read. They have to be able to read the language you put it in. They read the word, they get an idea, it goes into their head. The way color works is it goes zooming right into you. We feel it. Some people are very affected by the weather, like if it's a dark and gloomy day, I don't feel like I'm in a good mood. Bright and sunny, I'm happy. We do use it to express our emotions because it affects us so greatly as humans. Do you all feel that? As designers, you must be a little more attuned to colors than most. All right, here is red. What comes to mind when you see red? Just a one-word answer. Tyler says angry. So is Elizabeth, angry. Hungry. Yeah, it's dinner time for a lot of people. McDonald's. Yeah. Uh, these are all good answers. Yeah. Life. Cherry. Blood. Uh, it is all those things. It can also be, for instance, passion, love. Anybody think of that? It could be love or it could be angry. How could one color be two things that are opposite? What do love and anger have in common? They are emotions, Angela, that's correct. Yes, strong emotions. Passion, yes, you got it. Strong, you need a strong color for strong emotions. So the difference between anger and love is how you use the color. If I'd put this red instead of a big rectangle, it was a heart, probably you wouldn't think of anger so much, right? Uh, it is the color that's like sort of the most intense on the color wheel, and we use it to describe our most extreme emotions and feelings. Here's pink. What comes to mind when you see pink? Girl, pretty. Yeah, Angela, Tyler. A baby, softness. Yes, and spring. Yes, it is sort of new and youth-like. It also has a feminine side to it that's been built into our culture. It hasn't always been that way. In the Russian culture, for instance, they don't have a word for pink. They just say light red, which it kind of is. It's like a desaturated red, but it's come to mean different things in different cultures. If you think about it, yeah, it's usually youth, uh, bubble gum. It could be kind of tacky, but it can also be sophisticated when it's used correctly. Orange. What comes to mind when you see orange? Autumn. Syracuse. Angela. Halloween. Yeah, coming up. Halloween. Yeah, all those things. Orange can be very creative and kind of sophisticated. It can also be sort of childish and fun as well. Autumn citrus. Yeah, we're in that season, going into that season soon. Yellow. What comes to mind when you see yellow? Happy. Yes, Tyler. Finally made Tyler happy. Sun, Angela. Right. It is sun. It's flowers, right? Banana. All happy, good things, right? Anybody think of like warning, danger? Angela says gold. Yeah. Yeah, yellow can be very friendly and happy. It could also be scary. It could be, like if you see a snake with yellow stripes, that's probably not a good thing, right? Blue. What comes to mind when you see blue? Sad, calm. Yeah, water. All these things. You think about meditating by the ocean, right? The sky, yes. Beautiful blue, calm. But blue can also be corporate, big banks, big insurance companies. They use blue a lot. Blue suits for very conservative dressing. Chase Bank. That's right, Tyler. Yeah. So again, a bit of a paradox with these colors. They can be two things that almost seem opposite at once. How about green? What comes to mind when you see green? Forest. Three students say money. Grass. Yeah, it's money is like the number one answer. But grass, green, growing, nature. Yeah, healthy. The earth, nature. What's the negative side of green? How about toxic waste, radioactive, envy? Yes. If you're eating green, you're healthy. If you're feeling green, you're sick, right? Army, right? So the lesson is every color is what you make of it. You can push it one way or another. It can mean certain things in one context and something completely different in another context. So, as a designer, our goal is to master that and make colors work for us. Uh, Color is also about physics, and if you should understand a little bit about how it works from a physical standpoint to get a better idea of how to manage it. Our eyes, we see color from the back of the eye as the fovea, which senses all the colors we see. The image comes through the front. There's a lens here, and it flips it upside down, and you sense the image. The fovea has two different kinds of cells, cones and rods. The rods help you see dark and light, and the cones actually sense color. And there are three kinds of cones. There's red, green, and blue. And between how those three different cones are activated, we see all the colors we see. There are conditions like color blindness where people cannot see color or they don't see it clearly. Can you all read the numbers on these circles? If anybody cannot read the number, you should let your instructor know because you might be colorblind. But they are 7, 6, 26, 73, 74, and 45. The way this works as a color blindness test is because the places where the number is and where the number isn't are only different in terms of hue, not light and dark and not shape. So the hues make the difference, nothing else, and so you really can't see it unless you can see color. Everybody present have any issues with color? No? There is a belief that there are some humans that have what we call tetrachromacy, which means that they can see more colors because instead of having 3 receptors, they have 4 cones, and it would only be women. You know, this is kind of a remarkable idea when you think about it. The scientist who did this study said that he met this woman who he believed to be a tetrachromat, and they looked at the blue sky, and he said, it looks blue. Do you see blue? And she said, yeah, I also see pink. Well, there's no pink there, he said, but she's seeing something that the rest of us cannot see and using the word pink to describe it. When you think about it, it's kind of spooky. It's like, wow, what is she seeing? You're dying to know, but you can never know. Kind of cool and kind of scary, right, Kali? So, yeah. So understanding how to describe color and talk about it has a powerful effect. It gives us control. And so that's one of the things we want to do. Stare at the white dot in the center of this flag, and I'll tell you what's happening to your eyes. One of the great things about human beings is that we are adaptable, and we can adapt to our surroundings. If, for instance, we come from bright sunlight into a dark room, at first you really can't see anything, and then your eyes adjust to your surroundings, and you're able to see the room clearly. The same thing is true of color. When we stare at one color for a long time, as you're doing now, our eyes become accustomed to it. And when you suddenly remove it, we see the opposite, the complementary color. Did everyone see the flag in its natural color? Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? Well, you know your eyes do that. And so as a designer, you want to be aware that your eyes can sort of trick you at times. And that's kind of the lesson of that. Uh, Talking about color, structuring it, getting a grip on it. We're going to talk about Pantone in a little bit. But these are the things that we need to know as designers. The visual spectrum is Roy G. Biv. You've heard that before, right? This is all the electromagnetic waves we can see. Over on the far left, off the range of what we can see, is infrared. You cannot see it, but you can feel it. When you go out in the sun and you feel the sun's warmth hitting your skin, that's infrared light hitting you. On the other end, we have ultraviolet, which is not visible, but if you use a black light, you start to be able to see parts of ultraviolet, which is kind of interesting. This word spectrum was invented by Isaac Newton. He was a scientist who really was interested in color, and you know, over 400 years ago, he did experiments with light. He put a prism in his window and speculated that the white light was being broken into its component parts here, which he dubbed the spectrum. Everyone said, you're crazy, the light is just picking up color from the glass, but he proved them wrong by taking another prism and turning it back into white light. And indeed, he was correct in that the electromagnetic waves slow down at different rates when they hit the glass, and it does break it apart. And what you're seeing are the different wavelengths of white light broken up from the slowest red to the fastest blue. Newton was like 20 years old when he did all this stuff, came up with the laws of gravitation, kind of amazing guy. There are other scientists who've studied colors as well, like Louis Prang. He came up with the red, yellow, and blue primary colors, and pushed the idea that color should be taught in primary school, in elementary schools. And I really like that we all got finger paints thanks to him. He also invented the Christmas card. Ostwald was another scientist. This is his color wheel. It goes from black to white through the middle, and then all the colors around the sides. They've actually built 3D models of this out of wood. They're kind of cool looking. The Bauhaus really changed the way people looked at colors. They used only primary colors. This is a painting by Mondrian: red, blue, and yellow. They used that in architecture and a lot of the art. This is Kandinsky. So form follows function. Simplify, keep things bold and simple, and that's where that came from. And then here's Johannes Itten, our friend from the quote in the beginning. He wrote a book called The Elements of Color, created a new color wheel. He believed in color chords, that color palettes work together. And one of his students was Joseph Albers, who looked at colors and said they look different based on what's nearby them. So he created many paintings like this where he experimented with the same color yellow and a different color in the outside, and it really does change the effect, the way it looks. If you look at these two squares, the inner square here looks different than this inner square, right? But you know what's going to happen. Yes, they're the same color. It's kind of remarkable when you see how much colors are affected by their surrounding. Color structure. This is an excerpt from the YMCA graphic standards. And by the time you're done with this course, you'll know what all these numbers mean. In fact, you're going to create a palette like this for your own product by the end of the month using all these numbers. So buckle up. Pantone. So the color wheel is a tool that we use to understand color relationships and structure. Let's go through it quickly. So first of all, primary colors: red, blue, yellow. What makes a primary a primary? Anybody?
You can mix them to make other colors.
You can, but you can't mix colors to make them, right?
Right.
Yes. Right. So if you mix two primaries, you get what's called a secondary color. And if you mix a secondary color with a primary, you get a tertiary color. And then we have a 12-step color wheel, which is a really useful tool for color relationships. And we're going to use one of those in our first assignment, the hero portrait. If you looked at it like a family tree, there's all the grandparents, the parents, and all the little grandkids. But all mixed together, they all have a relationship. Hue, saturation, brightness, and value are terms that we use a lot, and we want to make sure that everyone understands what they mean. So let's go through these two. Hue is where you are on the color wheel. What I have here is a color picker, I think from Illustrator. And if you see here, these little HSB, this stands for hue, saturation, brightness. So if you click on the hue slider, the hue button, this strip here becomes a color wheel. It's just stretched out. The number signified here has a degree, and the reason for that is because it's like a compass, 360 degrees around a circle, right? So 0 degrees would be the very top of the circle, which is, of course, red. What would 360 degrees be? White? Red? Kenya says red. Yes, it would also be red. In fact, if you look at the strip down here, it's red. Up at the top, it's red. If you bent this around into a circle, the reds would meet. 360 and 0 are virtually the same in terms of the circle. So think of it like that, like a compass. Due north is red. brightness is a measure of how much black is in the color. And when you have the color picker up and you select the brightness selector here, this is a percentage. So it goes from 0 to 100%. 0% is black. 100 would be pure color, whatever color it is. In this case, because we're at 0, it's red. Saturation is how much white is in the color. Again, it's a percentage. So saturation selected, 0 would be pure white, 100% would be pure color. Now, it's a little confusing, and now this is on the test. Brightness, just remember B stands for black. How much black is in the color? Brightness. Saturation is how much white. So with these three controls, you really control color totally. You can move all the way around and get all the colors you can think of. Value is a measure of dark and light, and it can be independent of color. So you can have two hues that are totally different, complementary hues that have the same value, same light and dark. All right, we're not going to do this. All right, the Pantone matching system. This is something we're going to use in our hero portrait. Pantone is a for-profit company. They make these chipbooks, and they're little perforated chips, and they actually have printed on them a color. And underneath each chip is a number. And this is a method that works really well for printing, where you can say to somebody in California, I'm in New York, and I say, I want 186, and he knows that 186 is bright red because he has a Pantone book on his end. We're going to use Pantone to figure out colors for your hero portrait. And there's a video that goes through exactly how to find your Pantone colors. For now, I'm going to run this movie quickly. Actually, let's see. Do we have time? I think we're going to move on. I'm going to post the movie on FSO so that you all can watch it, but it describes in detail what Pantone does. It's pretty interesting. So look for that later. There are other color systems besides Pantone, and you'll see them in your applications. But honestly, I've never used any of them in over 30 years in design. I've only used Pantone. I've told that Munsell is very big too. Excuse me, but all these systems use some form of numbers assigned with colors. Pantone has really perfected it, and they become very big and dominant, and they do color predictions and all this. So get to know Pantone. All right. For a painter, gray is the richest color, the one that make all others speak. This was Paul Klee. Paul Klee, I think what he was talking about is how gray gives us structure, an underlying architecture that sort of brings things forward or to the back, puts things in light and shadow. And this is what we're going to use to start off with our hero portrait. You're going to use some grayscale artwork. You're going to create your own grayscale artwork using black, white, and two grays. There's a lot you can do with this. Now, this is Degas. If you remember, Degas did fantastic color pastel drawings of ballet dancers and all this, but he also understood the importance of understanding light and shadow in a black and white, in pencil drawings. He did many studies like this. This is Matisse, who did beautiful color paintings most of his life, but also understood structure of black and white. This is a monoprint. And this is Degas' drawing of Matisse. So even the Impressionists, who are so famous for color, understood that it was important to get a grip on light and shadow, black and white first. So that's what you're going to do in this first project, which we're calling Hero Worship. What you're going to do is you're going to do a portrait of your hero. It could be any person, living or dead, but it cannot be a fictional character. And the reason I don't want a fictional character is because that's somebody else's creativity. And I want you to come up with your own thing. This is the project for the week. So you're going to be working on this all week. I've broken it into tasks that you must complete in order. So we're going to go through those one by one. The reason I want you to pick a hero, by the way, is because pick somebody significant to you. It could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be somebody in your distant past, it could be your, a hero from history. It's up to you, but I want you to care about it because you'll do a better job on it if you really care. And it must be a real person. All right, so let's go through these tasks. So task 1 is to create a grayscale illustration using Adobe Illustrator. You're going to use 4 values: black, midtone, highlight, and white. So when I say midtone and highlight, I'm talking gray, a dark gray and a light gray. Once you have completed this hero portrait, you are going to submit it to the discussion for some feedback and then move it into color. Now, here's some student examples of the grayscale portrait. This first one is H.P. Lovecraft, who was a novelist, and he wrote a lot of stories about sea monsters. So the student created not just a floating head of H.P. Lovecraft, but an illustration that demonstrates some of the reasons why he found this person interesting. So this is what I want. I want a unique, original piece of art. I don't want you to just copy a photo and do it in Illustrator. I want you to create something unique that makes a statement about your hero. This one was a hero from World War II. He created sort of V for victory out of the machine guns. But now, if you look at this portrait, it's black, dark gray, light gray, and white. And that is all. No gradients, no drop shadows, no special effects. You really want to keep it simple because what we're doing is simulating screen printing for a t-shirt. This student did Frida Kahlo, and again, there are many portraits of Frida Kahlo, many self-portraits she did as well, but this one has a unique take on it, using this sort of low poly look, interesting flower ornament and triangle on the back. So a different take on Frida Kahlo. And again, light gray, dark gray, black and white. That's all you're doing. This is Simon Bolivar, the hero of Venezuela. Well done portrait, kind of haunting. He had a tragic story with this dripping portrait. But again, dark gray, light gray, black and white. That's all you get. Another hero of Venezuela, present day, struggling down there. They're having a lot of political problems. So light gray, dark gray, black and white. Nelson Mandela. Instead of just a portrait of him, it's got the map of Africa. His tie almost looks like the Horn of Africa. They added a couple words, which is okay. But again, create an interesting piece of artwork. This is the guy from Top Gear, and I can't remember his name. If anybody knows, shout it out. But he does a show on cars and racing and stuff, so there's racing flag and a gear, and it kind of makes sense, right? All right, who's this? Anybody know? Patrick Stewart. All right, who said that first? Yeah, Celicia. Patrick Stewart, yes. The guy off the X-Men, yes. Xavier. Angela also got Patrick Stewart. Yes, so this is a pretty good portrait. It uses the right number of grays. It does look like Patrick Stewart, but it's really just his head with some stripes in the background. It's not a very creative, original piece of work. So this would meet some of the criteria for the assignment, but not all. So think about that as you create your portrait. You want to sit down and maybe thumbnail out in pencil what your idea is for the portrait. After you complete your grayscale portrait, wait, let me stop right there. Any questions about the grayscale portion for task 1? No? Maybe? Tyler's good. Collie's good. All right. We'll move on. So after you create your grayscale portrait, you're going to turn it into these color relationships: monochromatic, complementary, split complementary, double complementary, analogous. Everyone has trouble saying that. Analogous and triadic. So, being that your portrait has essentially 4 channels, white, black, and 2 grays, some of these relationships will have all colors. Some will have also black and white. You have to look at each one and figure it out, and we're going to go through them carefully. But let's talk about the color relationships and what they do. So first up is complementary. These are opposites on the color wheel. They create very high contrast. You've got 2 colors. You can almost, if you're a sports fan, you can see the teams here. The Dolphins, the Vikings, the Lakers. Anybody? No. No sports fans here. The Bears. And Christmas or Mexico or Italy. So high contrast is good when you're a sports team, right? You want to have a little punch to it. Split complementary is like a complementary, but it goes across the color wheel and splits into 2 more colors. So instead of getting the orange directly across, you get these 2. This creates a 3-color relationship that is fun to play with because you've got some high contrast and some colors working together. Yeah, Angelo, Syracuse orange. You must be upstate New York, maybe. Yeah, we did complementary. I've got these slides in the wrong order, sorry. Double complementary are 4 colors that are opposite. So you pick a pair of complements and then pick another pair. In the case of your portrait, since you only have 4 channels, you would have no black and no white, just the 4 colors. Maybe you're in upstate New York. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so split complementary. These are all the different options. There's a lot of choices. I'm going to rush through this. Okay. Analogous. These are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. They're like next door neighbors. They're all on the same side of the street. Kind of a way of creating a little more harmony in the artwork. And that's what it looks like. Now, you still have some contrast. Like you go from red, orange to violet. That's pretty good. From blue all the way to red violet, from yellow all the way to blue green. So you still have some contrast to create differentiation in your artwork, but they're all on the same side of the street, so a little more harmonious. Triadic is 3 colors that are kind of as far apart as they can be. We got 4 flavors of triadic, so primary triadic, secondary triadic, and 2 tertiaries. So that's how that works. So in the case of your artwork, you'd have 3 colors plus either black or white. Monochromatic, mono, 1, chroma, color. 1 color, and all you're doing is adding white or adding black to create tints and shades of the color for contrast. If you remember, what's it called when you slide down toward black? What's the word we use for that? Which slider is it? Which button do you push? Brightness, Elizabeth. Great. 50 points for Hufflepuff. Yes, Angela was about to say it. Brightness, right. Brightness and saturation, going either way from the original color. All right, let's look at some artwork and reverse engineer it. So I'm going to show you this artwork and I want you to tell me what color relationship is being used. What do you guys think? I even put a color wheel here to help you. It's so much easier if you turn on your microphones. Triadic, Tyler, sort of correct, yes. What kind of triadic? It's for extra points. It's a primary triadic, right? We've got red, we've got blue, and this color here is actually yellow, but very desaturated, right? The artist desaturated the blue, desaturated the yellow, and let the red stand out so that it becomes the dominant color, sort of making things pop out. Do you see how that works? This one, what's the color relationship here? Yes, Tyler, there are different types of triadic. There's primary triadic, secondary triadic, and two tertiaries. But a triadic is a triadic. So you were right. You were correct when you said triadic. All right, what relationship is this? Complementary. Shalisha, correct. Yellow and violet. This is by Luis Fili, who's a great designer in New York. And this dominant sort of violet color, a tint of the violet, but violet. And then the complement sort of pops out to sort of create an accent around different areas. See how well that works? Yes, I've never seen it either. I'm dying to try it. I've been looking at this many times, so. All right, Tyler, Ravenclaw points for sure. All right, what's the relationship here? Anybody? Yes, Tyler, complementary. I'd say this is from red-orange to blue-green. So instead of just being sort of an orange to blue or red to green, being a tertiary color complementary gives this a sort of little alternate feeling, a little off kilter somewhat, which I think is really effective, making some sort of statement here about New York City and maybe climate change. This one is a little complex, so I'll show you. This is Jessica Heish, whose work is fantastic. She does type design, lettering, and she's really amazing. So this is a split complementary. So we've got sort of a red-orange, and we've got sort of a blue and green combination on the other side. And the way she worked this is primarily blue with green leaves, and then the orange becomes a little accent flower that pops out because it's in contrast with the other two. And it sort of takes your eye around, creates a lot of interest. Isn't that nice? I love this work. All right, how about this one? Everyone already answered. Complementary, right? This artwork actually has the same number of colors as your hero portrait will have. So it's got white, black, and two colors. The black is very active in this. It becomes really vibrant. Both colors are a little bit desaturated, I would say. So it makes the black pop a little more, but it's quite vibrant overall with this complementary color relationship. How about this one? What's this one? Mono? Monochromatic? No, not really. We've got three colors. We've got purple, violet, we've got green, and we've got orange. Violet, green, orange. Split comp? No, it's actually a secondary triadic. It's a little tough. This is more advanced. So the green is very desaturated, so it's very light. And the violet color is so deep and dark, it's almost black. The orange is pretty much strong orange. It's almost kind of like a red orange. Actually, it could be like red orange to blue violet to yellow green. But what I want you to see, this artwork also has the same number of colors as your hero portrait will. So they've got white as the other color. So white creates the highlight. The midtone is green, and they desaturated that so that it's very light, functions sort of in the middle, and then the orange becomes the darker shadow, and then the violet, because it's so dark, becomes the shadow, replaces black. It's highly effective. The thing is, when you're picking colors, you want to make sure that if it represents a highlight, it has a lighter value than the shadow. Okay, so Tyler is saying the triadic types again: primary, secondary, and tertiary. 2 tertiaries. So red, blue, yellow is primary. Violet, orange, green is secondary. And then there are 2 in between that are the tertiaries. This one, obviously, triadic. Full strength, 3 colors. Blue is being used predominantly, and the red as a little accent highlight, and the yellow as well, sort of like a gold color, and then white background. This artwork I liked because it also has the same number of colors as your hero portrait will. So highly effective. This one, when you see these primary triadic relationships, they tend to be very fun and exciting and feel kind of kid-like, right? Which is appropriate for a book of popcorn recipes. But here is another primary triadic. In this case, the red isn't really quite red. It's sort of bent. We say cool red, kind of going this way. The yellow is full strength, and the blue is also not just a straight blue, but a kind of cooler blue, blue-green, which gives it a very alternative, more sophisticated feeling than just a straight primary triadic. When we talk about, this is a student work. So this is monochromatic. Monochromatic, one color. She chose a red, and then there's a light tint, a mid-tone, a darker shade, and then a very dark shade, but it's all color. There's no black and no white. See how that works? Every color has a warm and cool version of itself. So you want to think about temperature as well. We have cooler reds and warmer blues. And this is fun to play with. This is a painting by an artist called Maxfield Parrish. What time of day do you think this painting takes place? Dusk. That's a good guess, Angela. Yeah. Dusk is good because as you see the warm light, the sun, when it travels low in the sky, it's going through more atmosphere, and the atmosphere actually sort of blocks the blue-green spectrum. So the light looks warmer. So the highlights here, instead of being white or gray, are like an orange yellow. All the highlights in the mountain, right? The shadows, conversely, are the complement, purple and blue. This is a highly effective way of creating light and shadow using complementary colors. This painting is in fact called Daybreak, but dusk is a good guess because it could be either. And now everyone's got to wake up at the break of dawn tomorrow and watch the sunrise to see if what I'm talking about, right? All right. These are the levers of color that you're going to be pushing around. Hue, where are you on the color wheel? What color is it? And we're working in very strict color relationships, so that's going to be dictated by the color relationship. Saturation, how much white is in the color. Brightness, how much black is in the color. And temperature, how warm and cool it is. Using these 4 attributes of color is how you're going to manipulate the color to work for your hero portrait when you get it done. Here's another student example. This is Gifty's. So these are the color relationships she did. Monochromatic, she chose sort of a warm yellow, orangey yellow. And you can see there's highlight, a mid-tone, a darker tone, and a shadow. And they're all colors. There's no white and no black. Complementary, so red and green, but she sort of desaturated the red, made more of a tone out of it, desaturated and darkened it a bit. So it functions more like a shadow, and the green is a little darker than the red. And then black and white. So complementary, 2 colors plus black and white. Split complementary is 3 colors plus either black or white. She chose black. Double complementary, 4 colors, no black, no white. So this is a dark, dark blue, orange, green, and red. Analogous, 4 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, no black, no white. Triadic, 3 colors, uh, plus either black or white. She chose black. All right, so this is Jacob's work. Jacob, this is his monochromatic. Why is his monochromatic incorrect? Any clue? Everyone's in shock. All right, I'll tell you. The background is white. This is monochromatic. It should not have any black or white. The background counts. And the reason it counts is because we're doing this as a t-shirt design, and the shirt color is one of the colors in the design. So, in other words, you're really doing 3 inks on a colored shirt. This would be 4 inks on a colored shirt, so it would be an upcharge, more money. So you don't want to do that. The background counts. So you got to remember that when you're creating these relationships. All right, so that was task 2. This is task 3, color separations. There's a video that shows you how to do this. This is just how you would separate colors for a screen printer so that they could print your t-shirt. We have a template you're going to use and a video that shows you how to do that and written instructions as well. It's a little bit challenging from a technical standpoint. It's probably the most challenging technical piece that you'll do all month. So if you're really having trouble, reach out for help. But the instructions are pretty explicit, and hopefully you can get through this. The final task, or the last task in the design part, is to create a t-shirt mock-up. Again, we have a Photoshop template that you're going to use very easily. Hold on, we still recording? Yes, all right. Something happened here. I think Siri misunderstood me. So you're going to create a mock-up of your t-shirt, and task 5, you're going to make a video presentation of the entire thing, showing off your work, explaining your design choices, telling everyone who your hero is. It can be like 3 to 5 minutes long, doesn't have to be a big deal, but I want you to record a video. If you don't want to use Adobe Spark and you're comfortable with some other tool, that's fine, but the main thing is that you must provide explanation of your design decisions. Wow. We're almost at 8 o'clock, so I've got to. All right, here's an example of the entire piece done by a student. So she did Harry Styles. So Harry Styles, there are a lot of photos of him, but she created her own kind of unique artwork using some leaves and a background with a butterfly. She added the word. She did other things rather than just have a floating head. And it creates a dynamic composition. She's got light gray, dark gray, black and white, and that's all. Now she created her color relationships, monochromatic, complementary, split complementary, double complementary, analogous, triadic. There's her final design. She separated it into Pantone colors. You're going to figure out your Pantones. And then there's her final t-shirt. That's all you have to do by Sunday. All right, so that was a lot. I'm recording this. Any questions right away that anyone has? Nope. All right, so just before we go, I'm going to just go with you through the assignment. Let's see, preview. Read this part. This is how you get in touch with your instructor. If you ever have any trouble, missing work, late work, all this stuff is very useful. Please read all these things. They're worth it. The hero portrait, week 1. So let's go into the assignment. Here you have the tasks as I just described them. Task 1 and a video telling you how to do it. There are 2 videos provided here from our friend Omar Martinez. One is how to go from a photo and the other is how to go from a sketch. So depending on what you're using, a photo or sketching, watch the appropriate video. Oh, that's how to use the template. So yeah, photo, sketch, template. So video, video, video. Everyone likes to watch videos rather than read. Angela's asking, is there a quick way to change the colors for each color type? Yes, and in fact, task 2 has a video showing you how to do that. I'm glad you asked. All right, so I've also included a checklist here. So just so you can double check your work and make sure you did everything. Task 3, creating color separations. As I said, there's a long descriptive narrative here giving it, but you can also watch the video and get it there. Task 4, make the t-shirt mock-up, another video to show you how to do it, but it's also written out. And then task 5, the final presentation, and I gave you a student example that was pretty good. This is how you're going to get graded. All these tasks get graded and added up to the final score. So you have, like I said, till Sunday night. The discussion Thursday is when you first have to post whatever you have for feedback. And remember, the discussion, you're not graded on the quality of the work at that point, you're graded on your participation. So don't be shy, post your work, and we'll give you some feedback, and hopefully you can make some improvements before you submit it for a grade. All right, that's all I've got. We're done at 7:55. Unless anybody has any more questions, I'm going to end the meeting.